Okay, welcome back to this PC that we're building. We're going to start by putting the RAM, which is the HyperX Fury DDR4 2133 MHz, into this slot here. Now, just before I put this in, for anyone who doesn't realise this, maybe you're new to building a PC, the thing to check for, there's a little tiny sort of blob of plastic right there, and you'll be able to see that on the RAM as well. So if you just sort of line it up, you'll notice it won't fit in that way because it won't line up basically. So what you want to do is just gently sort of slot that in there, make sure it lines up, which I don't know if you can make that out very well, but it does, I assure you, line up. And all you need to do is pop the first sort of left hand side in, and if you notice the connection is established there, do the same over on the right hand side, just gently push that down. Let me just do that again. So you'll see this bit here and it will actually sort of clip in. Okay, so let's do that now. Okay, and there you go, that's just clipped in. So that first piece of RAM is installed. Let's go for the second now. Let's just gently do the same exact process again. So apologies for the shaky camera. Push that down, that's just clipped in. Same on the right hand side, and that's clipped in as well. So as you can see, we've got the two HyperX Fury sticks of RAM inserted into the motherboard, and the next step is the processor. So let's just flip this around. In fact, let's flip it around this way, and you'll see, because this is a brand new motherboard, it's got a little piece of plastic here which it does actually say remove. I've never really read this, but it does actually say remove. You won't be able to read it on this video. Well, maybe you will actually. Let me just kind of see if we can focus on it. No, it's a bit too hard to read. It basically says just remove this piece of plastic so we can install the processor, and it literally just comes off. I mean, you can keep it if you really want. It's not exactly, it's not worth anything really. So now we can see the slot where the processor is going to go. Now what we need to do is just remove this here. It's a little lever which is essentially going to push down and secure the, let's just pull that back, and it'll basically secure the processor. So we've just lifted that right up, and I'm just going to get the processor out, ready to go on. So this might just take a second because I'm actually filming this on a mobile phone. And the processor is just now being removed from the box. Okay, and it's out. Okay, so let's take a quick look at the processor. So as you can see, we need to essentially line this up. Now, essentially what we see here, if you can just sort of make that out, let me just readjust the video. Now the processor has got a little arrow on the bottom sort of left corner, and now if you go over and look at the processor, the slot, what you will actually see is in the bottom left there's a little arrow. Don't know how well you can make it out on the video, however I don't think it takes a genius to work out that that's where the processor sort of needs to match up. So essentially the processor is going to fit in this way, and that is actually very important because obviously, you know, we don't want to damage it in any way. So let's try and open the processor sort of one-handed. There we go. Such a really nice processor. It's a can we see that? The i5-6500. So as I say, let's very, very, very carefully, because we really don't want to damage this at all. We're going to slot the processor in, and you know, before we go any further, you can actually see the top of the processor actually fits in flush on each side, so you know it's in the correct position. And now for the scary part, just gently pull that little sort of case down, and what we actually need to do at this point is just ensure that this case here, I think it's a case, I don't know how else to describe it really, it just sort of sits underneath the little screw right there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pull the lever down. This is the lever I'm talking about over here. Pull it down, and it's going to make a bit of a snapping noise. Okay, and it's going to go right underneath the little hook. So that processor is in, and that's that step done. Excellent. So next step now, guys, is we're going to install the fan, because obviously the processor is going to get pretty hot, especially if you use it for gaming. So what we really need to do is ensure that we, you know, make sure it doesn't overheat. So what we are going to do, we're just going to use the stock fan. Like I said, I'm not going to overclock it or do anything crazy. So we're just going to use the stock fan. It's already got the heatsink paste on it, so we don't need to apply any more. That's absolutely fine. And all we really need to know for this is, number one, we've got four little connections here, for want of a better word. And lo and behold, in the motherboard, if you can just about make it out, there's actually 4 holes in the motherboard. Now, it's just going to slot in nicely. This is going to be two holes there, 2 holes there. And what I do need to do on the stock Intel fan, there is here. So let me just really quickly remove this. This is a fan, CPU fan connection here. Now this is going to fit over here, and it actually says on the motherboard CPU fan, and there's a 4 pins which are going to connect into the CPU fan itself. So what we need to do, we need to ensure that the CPU fan, you know, it's within reach basically, you know. So I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to position the fan sort of in this. No, let's change that. Let's position it there, like that. Okay, I'm not pushing that in. I've just literally just let that rest. And will that fit? That's the question. Okay, it won't fit just yet. That's because the cables for the fan are just being held by a little piece of plastic. It's not a big deal at all, that's normal. We just need to undo that. Okay, and what we do need to do is just turn the fan around. Because unfortunately, and you can see a little bit of the paste has been applied to the CPU. That's not a big deal, that's fine. I thought it would be. Okay, so let's go ahead and stick the connections into that. Okay, and what we want to do is just make sure that lines up. You know, don't press down because we don't want to break the pins. Again, sorry for the shaky video, it's just that I'm trying to film with one hand. Okay, there we go. So that's absolutely fine. That's perfect. Just make sure the pins don't, you know, the cables don't touch the fan. That's not a good idea. So the next stage now, which I'm going to have to basically pause the video for, is I need to push down on each side of the fan so it goes through the other side of the motherboard, which I will show you in just a second. What I'll basically do is I'll start over on the left hand side and work the opposites. So we'll do this side, then this side, then the top right, and then the bottom left. Okay, so you kind of work in opposites, and you just do that really to balance the board. Okay, you don't want to, if you do these two sides on the left and these two on the right, you could end up damaging the board or the pins, the fan. You know, take my advice, guys. Go for the top left, bottom right, top right, bottom left. Okay, let's do that now.